Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Q&A session. You guys, if you want to ask questions, go ahead and raise your hands or ask it in the chat. Rao, you're the first one, so welcome.
Hi, Hemal.
Hey.
I got a couple of questions, actually. I don't know if I can ask one at a time or all at once. So I will start with one, though.
Okay.
So when you started, you mentioned your regional center. Is that a regional center only for your own projects, or are you working for others' projects as well?
Yeah, that's a great question. So our regional center is not entirely in the whole country. You have to get regional center approval for any county that you want to work with. So our regional center is approved for the entirety of Carolinas up to Atlanta MSA. So the whole Southeast where we want to function at least. For now, we are looking at just our projects, but at some point, once our marketing machine goes and we have a lot more EB5 investors that we won't be able to place into our own projects just because of the limitations of our bandwidth. We'll partner with strategic developers to see where we can place and help those investors. So that we're open to it, but that wasn't the goal. We don't want to be just an arbitrage shop of earning fees and just do that. This was a buy for primarily our own development projects.
I see. So now part of that, since you already have an existing regional center, is it something much easier to apply for other regions? Like, of course, right?
Yes.
I don't know. So because rather than starting from new, so it may be much easier. So
correct. It's a new regional center application takes 3 years now. It's very cost prohibitive because of all the constraints that the US government has put in, where we have to spend per project, we have to have a third party audit. It's like running a fund. So we spend thousands and tens of thousands of dollars per project as a regional center to comply with the US government in terms of bookkeeping and all of that, because our neck is on the line if a developer doesn't perform. But yes, to answer your question, it takes only a few months. You put in an application, you pay the fees and expand your region. So we could be national if you wanted to. Right now, we don't see the need to do that.
Are you open to it in case if there is an opportunity?
Point, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, at some point, absolutely.
I see.
Yeah.
And also other question is, you briefly mentioned you don't want to invest in Texas area or something. I don't know if I misheard it. Is that existing projects or new projects? So
no, as a developer, we
why.
want. Yeah. No, that's a great question. I mean, we've, in the heart of the market, we've looked at $45-50 million deals in Texas as well. And what we found out is just, the way there are tiers to brokers and wholesalers and conversations, right? And if we are out of state, unless we are buying aggressively all the time and building an operational team there, it's hard to be in the top tier in terms of deals. So we get the bottom of the barrel, and realistically speaking, some of the deals didn't work out too much for us. So for us to focus in all the relationships here with politicians, with brokers, with economic development forums, I can drive and wine and dine and talk to people. That's just the model that we've built for our company, and that's what we want to stick to. Not that there's nothing wrong with, you can either have, in my mind, one asset class and multiple locations or around the country, or you can build a flywheel of businesses and multiple asset classes, and you can run it like divisions of a bank, which I came from, where if the credit card division's going up, but the mortgage division's down right now, the predictableness of the revenue is there. That's kind of how I want to run my business, and we'll see how it goes.
Okay, thank you. That's all.
Thank you for giving us all the nuggets. That's awesome. Just a quick question about the EB5. Where is the best place as a resource to learn about the EB5? Is there educational programs or going through you, like, or
Yeah.
where's the best resource?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of events. If you go through this rabbit hole, there'll be a lot of events, paid and free, that happen, both nationally, internationally. But I would say the first, resource would be our website. I think I've done a decent enough job, and I wrote the content for it, to put in at least the basic perspective on what it means with the FAQs and everything. How does this function, the timeline for an investor, the timeline for a developer, et cetera, et cetera. So I would say do that as the first resource. And then depending on what you're trying to do, what's the end goal, right? Are you trying to have friends and family placed with a regional center? Then that's a different conversation. Are you trying to buy a regional center or be a liaison? There's multiple paths that you might have in your head. Based on that, I can point you in the right direction.
Okay, appreciate that.
Awesome. Okay, Gene.
Thanks, Tim. Hemal, you've done a great job explaining things here. From my remembrance, I've been in this arena for a while. Is there a cap on the EB-5 program? Because I know we had looked at doing this years before, and the big companies are grabbing up, there's only 10,000 EB-5 slots available and they're all gone. Is that still an issue?
Yeah, so it's still 10,000 visas, and that's why so the way it works for any visa category, right? Let's say EB2 is 40,000. If the Congress and the US government will give you 10,000 visas that qualify under the EB-5 program every year.
Okay.
And then every country out of that only gets 7%. So, countries like China and India, that's why they have a queue or a backlog for certain EB-5 categories, again, down the rabbit hole. And that's why the 1,050,000 versus 800, rural versus high unemployment. There's many, many aspects to it, which I won't talk about. But yes, there is a cap. What has happened over the last few years is from 2017 to 22, especially with the pandemic, a lot of visas, there were not many people applying in this EB-5 realm. So there is actually, rollover process. If you don't use your 10,000 visas, they get rolled over the next year. And so there is quite a bit of visas available. The Congress did a Reform and Integrity Act in March of 22 that is, sets up the new rules for the next 5 years for EB-5. And so now there's a renewed interest, and at some point they would start having backlogs. But for now, it's still current. And there's a visa bulletin that Congress publishes, USCIS, US government, USCIS publishes on a monthly basis that shows you by country if the visa is current or is there a backlog. So you can get a free bulletin, click on it, and they show you that.
Well, great response. Once again, Tim, thanks.
Awesome. Okay. Aslina, you're up next.
Okay, so I guess the minimum investment is 1,050,000 or 800,000. That is the correct number. I'm looking. So is that right?
Yeah, so it's 99. I didn't mention the 1,050,000. So here is how it works. I'll give you a quick response, right? Just like an opportunity zone census tract, there's an EB-5 set of websites where you can go and put in any address and it'll tell you. EB-5 can be of the 800,000, qualify for the 800,000. You have 3 types of projects. One is it should be in a high unemployment area, which the census tract would tell you, right? That is high unemployment, so it qualifies for the 800,000. Second, it's in a rural area, right? So it's at least 45 minutes away from an MSA, et cetera, et cetera. And third, it's an infrastructure project, which is building bridges or roads or things like that for the government or having a government contract. Those 3 elements qualify you for that 800,000 category. If your land is not in either of those 3 buckets, you can still do EB-5, but it costs, the same investor would have to put in 1,050,000, and they don't get any special treatment. There's quotas within the quotas of rural projects and others that give you a fast track green card. that the 1,050,000 want. So TLDR is 99.9% of the projects are of either high unemployment or rural. Nobody wants to do the 1,050,000 type of project, because why would an investor put in $250,000 extra and then maybe get a green card 3-4 years later than, you know, putting their money in some other project that's qualified for other reasons. So that's why I didn't mention that. For simplicity's sake, you have to look at the qualification. It has to fit in one of the $800,000 bucket for you to do EB5.
And one more follow-up question. I think you said earlier, it has to be something that is built from the ground up. Is you can't buy an existing business with it.
That, yeah, again, it's the simpler version of it. At
Okay.
that stage, full disclosure, you need to speak to an immigration attorney on some of the laws. But there are laws where you can buy an existing business or a tear down type of asset or a negative earnings type of asset and get it qualified for EB5. But again, 99% of the projects that you will see keep on the compliance side of, I'm doing a new construction and that's what I'm raising EB5 money for.
Okay, got it.
Awesome.
Great
Okay.
questions, by the way.
Yeah, this has been an amazing interview. Lots of great content, lots of great questions from you guys. I see Sean submit one in the chat here. And Sean, if you want to come online to ask it, you're welcome to. If not, I'll ask here. Any advice for developers wanting to enter the EB5 space on how to fast track the process? Also, what are your thoughts about buying and renting regional center? Last, is your regional center able to do deals in Texas? I know you answer that, but that's 3 questions in the chat.
Well, I'll answer all of them. Fast track EB5 process. It depends again what you're trying to do. If you're trying to build more construction projects for EB5, it's easy as learning a couple of free websites. There are big regional centers that provide you with video information similar to what I provided in text. And then you can either apply for a new one or, you know, work in partnership with someone else. There's about, I would say, a couple of hundred regional centers in the US. So we're not certainly unique. But again, everyone, because of the risks and reward associated with it, are careful. So you can't just be any developer and, you know, hire a regional center. You got to make sure that you have something, either you're bringing all the EB5 investors or, you know, doing something that shows them from a due diligence and underwriting perspective why they should work with a new investor versus where they are with their Rolodex of investors and developers, right? So that's the place. But yeah, you can certainly partner. There's quite a few regional centers in Texas, many of them. Some are nationwide, some are from Canada, that work in the US exclusively. So you can find anyone and give them a call, right? And say, what are your requirements for a project? And if your project fits in their partnership box, you should definitely partner with them. And then ours, you know, I mentioned this, our primary goal is to develop our projects, right? Because our pipeline of projects need, you know, over the next 6 months to 12 months, we'll need 40 to 50 investors ourselves, EB5 investors, because of all the construction pipeline we have. But at some point, we'd love to open up and have strategic discussions with not a new developer, but someone who's done well, and hopefully they're looking either in our area, or if we expand to, you know, Florida, Tennessee, Texas, all the other high immigration markets, then we would love to think about partnerships and see where synergies lie. So we're always open to it. It's not the goal in the next 60-90 days for us.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
you can partner with us. We will, by having EB5 investors, from that perspective, you can partner with us. We'd love to partner with you in the future as a developer standpoint.
Awesome. All right, Sean, hope that answers all of your questions there. Martinique, you had your hands raised and then you turn it off. Did you still have a question?
I just was gonna say, I worked for the federal government in the Social Security Administration Department for 12 years, and I've never heard of EB5. So it's
Yeah.
probably some, exclusive direct contact, you gotta have a developer in your back pocket kind of thing.
Yeah, it's very niche. And we would like to keep it reasonably so.
Right, understood.
Awesome. Okay. Any other questions, guys?
Okay, so several ways to reach out and work with you, Hemal, would be if you have a handful of
Yeah.
investors, is that right? Or projects?
Absolutely.
I think it sounds like
Yeah.
you have projects.
Yeah, we have EB5 project. We do a lot. I mean, EB5 is just a small capital stack for us, right? We do a lot of other JV partnerships and land projects. We'll talk about the fund, non-EB5 type of projects. But our goal is to not provide unique, not the cookie cutter, here's a large box that we are acquiring. Not that there's nothing wrong with that, but we're trying to do certain very specific things in the market that we know, and we believe investors would enjoy having that level of diversification. So I would love to talk to you guys, whoever's in that capital raising bucket, on some of the things we're doing, both EB5 and non-EB5.
Thank you.
Yes.
So Hemal, other question what I have is what are the typical total expense for the investor apart
Yeah.
from the minimum investment of the 800 to 150K, they have other expenses associated to it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. So this is the 800,000 is just the investment amount, right? Then there's an administrative fee to the regional center because, like I mentioned, we have a lot of expenses that we have to go through on an annual basis, and that's become stricter. That typically ranges from 50 to 75,000 across the regional centers. And then, the attorney fees, that could be 15 to 20,000, the application fees that are a few $1,000s. So you're looking at a $800,000 investment. When you complete the application, you're probably closer to that 900, a little less than 900 is what you should be looking at.
Is that 100K extra all for the investor, or all, is it split between the sponsors and also investors?
The 100K extra is for all the fees and the immigration lawyers, paperwork and application, all of that. Some of it's directly between the lawyer and the sponsor. We don't, even as a regional center, get involved in that. We just, provide you with different, hey, we have seen that these 3 lawyers can be great. Typically, you might want to talk to them and see who fits your style and negotiate a fee with them, and work with them to file your side of the paperwork as an investor, right? From our side, it's you're investing the money into the fund, and then the fund is investing with the developer, and we are putting our paperwork for job creation and all the compliance that we have. But as an investor, you have to work with an immigration attorney to do specific paperwork to make sure you get a green card in a few years' time.
Awesome, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Okay. I did have a follow-up question for you. So with many centers or many EB5, offering such low interest rates for the investors, and then you're offering 5%, like why would an investor not pick more people like you, more developers like you, that pay them a much higher return than what they can get, with the 1 to 3% that they get with other people?
Yeah, it's a classic marketing and longevity, experience, all that combined, right? Why would people do 6% Grant Cardone deals and not Tim Mai deals, right? That's that's the conversation. Yeah, but ideally
Gotcha.
we want to be positioned to be having great not only the great stack, people can come visit
Right.
our project in Charlotte and look everything and touch and feel and understand the project, and the fact that we have so much common equity and references, because we are in a unique position as both the developer and the regional center. So people know us, trust us just to provide common equity, which will earn the 20% or more returns. And now you're sitting on top of that stack and you're earning 5%. So that's the incentive that we're providing to say, yes, we don't do the crazy Facebook ads and marketing, but we are also not trying to build a hotel in California with all the regulations. Might take 7 years to do that, and your money's stuck for 7 years. We are doing
Right.
very core multifamily projects where you have common equity behind you that keeps your money safer, and that's why we are confident in paying you that kind of returns.
Gotcha. Good. Yeah. And I bet too, like the guys that are paying very little is probably bashing the guys that are paying more. Say, hey,
Of course,
if they're paying you above 3%, it might be a scam.
or they're too risky as a project, right?
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
a valid.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
It's
man,
a game of marketing, right? Why my
yeah.
project is the best.
Yeah, I was talking to a friend of mine. He's a US citizen, but he's been living in Vietnam for 20 years now. And he tells me like the whole EB5 environment over there right now, there has been so many scams that people are super skeptical
Yep.
with EB5 investments right now. So I can understand, them playing
Absolutely.
playing that
Yeah.
card. Yeah. All right, Simon, you have another question?
Yes, I do. So how long does the investor have to leave their money in a project? Is there like a amount of time before they qualify to get that visa? Or do you once you invest, once you build the project, do you refinance them out, or they still have to be in the property, invested in the property?
Right. So the way it works is when they invest the first time with us, they fill their first set of paperwork, which is called I-526. I'll use some technical terms so that you guys think I'm way more knowledgeable than I am. But that would take 1 to 3 years to get approved by the US government, the first application. Once that is approved, if they are in the US, they don't have to go for a consular interview. If they're in their outside country, they need to go for a visa interview. But at that end of visa interview, which might take 6 months, 12 months, 3 months, depending on the country, they get a temporary green card. So at that stage, their family can now move. It's only valid for 2 years, and they get to stay in the US as green card holders. And at the end, closer to that end of 2 years, they apply for the last stage. And so in that time period, they want to be model citizens, make sure they're not doing any criminal activity, all that. US government's looking at that. So they want to make sure that the right people are moving to the US, right? And at that end, they apply for what is known as I-829. Once the I-829, the application for a permanent green card is approved, at the next capital event after that is when they can get their money back. If the regional center provides the money before and it's not considered at risk during that entire period of time, then their application could be disqualified. That's one rule. And the second rule now that has come in is, after the first application is approved, after 20 months of that, they can apply for getting their capital back. But that doesn't mean, it depends on where we are in the market cycle, right? If we haven't refinanced, or if we have refinanced or sold the asset, now we have to redeploy the funds as a regional center to another project. And whenever that project has a capital event is when they can receive the money. So it's a very long process. And to Tim's point, in the past, the US government didn't have too much scrutiny on it. So a lot of people would just do bad deals or, do fraudulent activities. And now it's becoming much more scrutinized, much more cost prohibitive. And, regional centers are in the line of fire in terms of all these third-party fund management and audit that we have to get done on the money that we receive. So that's making it a better process for investors.
Gotcha. Very cool. Man, I think this might be our longest Q&A session to date. So that's awesome. You have some really good good information to share. All right, Constantine, you're up next.
Hi, thank you for your time. I got a question. What does your typical syndication look like? LP splits, pref payments?
For historically, we've done for existing projects, we've done a 70-30, 7 pref with a hurdle at 15 IRR. After 15, we've done 50-50. We are moving towards a much more, pref equity type of positions for our capital stack. So it'll be returns in teens, up to 16%, but no splits after that. So it makes it more predictable. But that historically we've done the usual 70-30 splits and pref returns, etc.
70 LP, 30 GP?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
It'll be good if it's the other way around, right, Hemal?
Yeah.
Awesome.
I've done that.
That's good.
Great.
All right, BJ, you up next.
Thanks, Hemal. This is amazing, and I saw you actually in Charleston in February, I guess, but I never got to meet you. I was very disappointed, but I was looking at this I think this EB5 map. I was just doing some research, and I just wanted to kind of make sure, you can get EB5 money in the middle of major cities, right?
Correct.
Because there's okay.
Yeah, it's high unemployment by 2020 census tract. If that area, even if it's changing or has changed in the last 3 years, if by the historic census tract it was identified as a high unemployment area, that qualifies as the employment TEA type of category. Urban TEA is what is known as. And so you can still ask for 800,000 and that land still qualifies. And it could be one street down, it's not qualified. This street is qualified across the road. It's just bizarre and mind boggling, but that's how the rules are. And we play by that game.
That's what was fascinating to me. I was looking at a part of a town that we invest in, and it's like a great part of town. And then across the tracks, it's not a great part of town, can't do this. It's kind of wild.
Yep.
Thank you.
That's awesome. All right. Hi, BJ. Thank you.